A good Sunday morning from the KTN News Center here in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. It is the 11th day of November 2018. You're in time, probably a bit earlier than us for Kenya's premier political Sunday morning political show, Sunday edition. We do apologize for, we are having some technical issues. We do apologize for that delay in beginning the program. But we're here. We will be analyzing and dissecting some of the biggest political stories in this republic today. A lot of politics today, a lot of heavy political undertones during the burial of the former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka's father, Musyoka Mairo, in Sekuru on Friday. We'll talk about more of that. There could be an appointment for Kalonzo Musyoka, a second of the NASA leaders by the President Uhuru Kenyatta. We'll talk about that and more, and then we'll talk about also Raila Odinga's political future. There were some questions whether he will retire from local politics because of his appointment to that AU appointment. His political lieutenants have come out saying that Raila Odinga is still the ODM party leader. He is going nowhere. So just what gives? We'll talk about that, and also more politics from Nyanza's Deputy President William Ruto has been making inroads into Nyanza. Is he trying to inherit Raila Odinga's political constituency? How hard is that actually? He has been in Migori a lot for a second time in the last couple of days, alongside the Migori Governor Okoth Obado, addressing political rallies there. We'll talk about all that. But first, very quickly, in the few minutes that we have, let's take a look at what's happening in the Sunday papers this morning. Analyst with me, as always, Dismas Mokwa, political risk analyst, is with me here on Sunday edition this morning, as well as Kipchumba Karori, political strategist. Mark Bichachi, political analyst and communication expert, is also with us this morning, as well as Hesbon Owila, who has been missing in action for the past couple of Sundays. He is back with us this morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Morning. Let's begin with the Sunday Standard. Another scandal at Afya House. Afya House hit by 15 billion shilling fee scandal. Dismas, let me begin with you. What is your initial reaction to this?
I think to scandals of this magnitude, they will not see a scandal.
Right.
The kind of relationship which exists between the national government and county governments as far as the healthcare is concerned. Because majority of these counties, the governors were forced to take equipment,
right,
which in fact they did not need. So most of the equipment is lying idle in their stores, gathering dust, and they don't have human resource capital. And as always the case is, we should be asking ourselves, what was the motive in getting...
So this is about spending a lot from the taxpayers' money, a lot that Kenyans did not actually need.
Yeah. For instance, some counties were given equipment to treat cancer, yet they did not need cancer facilities. So what was the rationale? One would have expected that the national government would have consulted with the county government,
right,
for them to tell them exactly what they were looking for.
All right.
And also to ask themselves, is leasing the best option in this particular business?
All right.
And also this comes, it's a confirmation. You remember just before the elections, the NASA luminaries actually raised this issue. They said that there's a deal which is not going to benefit Wanjiku nor Mura, but to benefit selected public servants of rank.
Kipchumba, health is a very important pillar in President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration. What will be happening here?
Thank you, Ben, for having me in this show. I believe that when one looks at such a headline, you ask yourself, have we suspended our procurement laws? Because everything that happened here went against the procurement law, and this kind of deal was even brought issues between how devolution is supposed to work.
Right.
Because you realize that county government and the national government are interdependent. There is no supervisory role over each other, but they are supposed to correlate and interdepend on each other.
Right.
And mostly it should be through consultation. And when you saw what was going through, they were forced into getting into a scheme which most of them did not understand. And we are now made aware by this daily that there was no proper consultation.
Right.
The question is, who stood to benefit by having this lease being forced through the throats of governors.
Right.
And how it was done in a forced manner is a pure characteristic of a scandal.
All right. That story is, you can check it, it's the splash on the Sunday Standard. You can check it out in more detail on pages 4 and 5 of the Sunday Standard. On page 6, Jitters of Uhuru Raila silent travels to China. Hezbollah, let me come to you. I mean, we have seen a very heavy contingent of leaders, political leaders and business leaders as well in this country trooping to China. Analysts saying that China, is making a charm offensive on Africa. We're talking about Kenya specifically. You're just back from China yourself, privately, of course. But what can you tell us about this?
Close to 14 days in China. And you would probably understand why the president and many African governments probably are looking at working with the Chinese government and the people of China. I think the example that China is giving the world is an example of how you can move people, do business, and change the lives of people without necessarily being, seriously capitalistic like the Western world and what liberal democracy is telling us, And I guess that the president is probably looking at a situation where he will do that which benefits the common citizenry in Kenya. You look at the latest that we are getting from China. There was an expo in Shanghai, China, just before I left China. And the Chinese are intending to come to Kenya and set up a cancer treatment plant. So you look at the bigger picture and you realize that that treatment plant is probably going to help a lot more Kenyans, than you can ever imagine. And I'm looking at these relations as relations that will benefit the common citizens in both countries.
All right.
But I think most importantly, Ben, is that there is a silent engagement between the people of China and the people of Kenya. And I think I went to China courtesy of that there is a lot more of a people-to-people engagement that is not in the public domain.
All right, let me go to Mark Bichache. Mark, the president has been getting a lot of flack, especially on social media, every time he has visited China. We did see in this last trip, there was not much fanfare on the president's traveling. He's flying out to China, even he's jetting back into the country. Is State House trying to, trying to play this down, or should the president be trying to convince Kenyans, that he's doing the right thing in his dealings with China?
Most definitely, State House would be very concerned about the kind of narrative and story that comes out of the president's visits to China, because we know that Kenya right now is quite averse to debt. We are quite averse to increasing our debt to the people of China. And I believe rightfully so, because China is an interesting country. China is coming a bit late into the international party, in the sense that previously, countries such as the US, Britain came into the international play via colonialism. The United States via causing a lot of wars and trying to stop a lot of wars across the country. China wants to play in the big boys league, but it cannot go to war. It cannot colonize any country. But what it can do is use economic diplomacy and economic tactics to take over these countries. And that's what China is doing. So we need to be very careful in how we engage with China, because make no mistake, China is interested in expanding its political power base and its economic power base, and it's planning to show up its resources, show up its place in the world, because for the first time, the Chinese are looking at single-digit GDP numbers every year on year. That means they have to look outside of that continent, and the only place they can look most focusedly is on Africa, and that focus has to be tamed.
All right. Let's move to the Sunday Nation very quickly on the splash. And the splashes this morning are all about stolen billions. Kenya's stolen billions hidden in 7 countries. Super rich politicians and lords of graft hiding money in safe havens abroad. with Switzerland, the United Kingdom, Mauritius, and Dubai listed among popular places, we understand the Sunday Nation is reporting that the Kenyan government is working with 7 other countries to try and recoup this money, this much. Do you think this is going to happen? We've heard this story a lot.
That the mutual assistance programs, that they need to recover these resources. And that has been almost 4 decades and nothing has happened. And in my view, instead of our leaders telling us they're working on this, we should be seeing the money coming back to the nation. This idea of them telling us every single day that they're working on a program that at an advanced stage, nobody's going to believe the government when they keep on giving those speeches, because the rubber now needs to meet the road.
Right.
And it will only meet the road when we see the money coming back. And also when you're being told about these super rich politicians, is there not anybody in government who can actually tell us who is this super rich politician? Who are they? For instance, a few days ago, the Anti-Corruption Authority made an allegation that one governor, in fact, has been able to stash 2.5 billion outside Kenya. And this money coming from a county in the western part of Kenya. So if in a space of 5 years,
yes,
one governor alone has been able to transfer 2.5 billion, if you do basic mathematics, you multiply by 47 governors, we're having a lot of money stashed abroad, which should be assisting us. And I think the relevant agencies must be ashamed of themselves,
right,
of just reminding us that the reason why we don't have healthcare in Kenya is simply because a few of these rich guys, politicians, are stashing money away. You would recall last week, people died in Muranga because of rabies. I mean, that's something which should raise national concern. And there's a very high chance these people died because the leadership have taken money to Switzerland or wherever they are keeping it.
Kipchumba, given the struggle or how hard it has been to, fight corruption here in the country, how possible is it for the Kenyan government to recover these billions in the UK, Switzerland, Dubai, all those destinations we are being told?
With good mutual relationships and ratified legal regimes, we can easily recover the money. But the question you ask yourself, Ben, is one: how does this money leave the country? We can say the yesteryear's money left because there were weak controls. But what about now? Are we telling the public that people transport money as luggage or something to the other destination? No, what we need to ask ourselves is we need to sort out our controls. We have weak control systems, we have good laws, but we have a problem in enforcement. The other point that we need to reiterate is that as much as we fight corruption, we are not fighting macro corruption, we are fighting micro corruption. The small time corruption, the 3 million, 10 million, and we are leaving the big boys who take the 15 billion, the how many billion, what we need to deal with. Even as we repatriate the money back and as we sort out on the issue of who took it where, we have to deal with individuals. We cannot be saying the wealthy politicians, so and so. Who are these politicians? They have a name.
All right. Because of time, we'll have to. But very quickly, there's a story here. Mark Bichachi, story on page 3 of the Sunday Nation, a storm in a cup. The Red Beret seems to have been dusted from history, at least here on the continent. Political leaders trying to don that attire, the Red Beret. We have seen a EFF leader in South Africa, Thomas Malema, Bobby Wine in Uganda, the Burkina Faso president, Thomas Sankara, even Kenyan politicians. We did see during the Firimbi movement, ODM leaders dressed, putting on that Red Beret. What does it stand for, politically speaking? Why do you think it's making its way back? Very quickly.
The Red Beret is, of course, making its way back because of one Julius Malema, passionately known as Juju Malema in South Africa. Now, the reason why it's popular in South Africa is because Julius Malema, like him or hate him, does stand for something. He stands for the rights of the black people. He stands for the rights of the farmers. He's been consistent about the wealth disparity in South Africa. I think he's wrong on the issue of land and other issues that they just need to be reallocated allocated to the African population, but he stands for something. But unfortunately, in this Instagram and Twitter age, the popularity of it is now being subsumed by Kenyan politicians who want to associate themselves with what is a popular movement, which is pro the people, pro development, pro moving the country forward. So in Kenya, you see the likes of Babu Owino and others trying to copy Bobi Wine in Uganda, who has a valid cause when he's standing against the tyranny of Museveni. But in Kenya, this is just theater, because we know that our politicians do not stand against salary increases. They do not stand against loans for them to buy huge SUVs, even though their constituencies are here in Embakasi. They don't stand against expenditure that is ballooning in this country. So the red beret in Kenya is an Instagram pose. It is a hashtag. In South Africa and in Uganda, it is a fight for the rights of the people. In Kenya, it is social. It is being a socialite.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Of course, there is also the Black Berets, some political leaders trying to be the Black Panthers. Let's leave it there on what's happening in the newspapers. You can be sure to grab your copy of the Sunday Standard for your stories. Let's take a quick commercial break here on Sunday edition. When we come back, we shall be getting into politics proper, real politics, we call it here on Sunday edition. We shall be taking a look at some of the things that were said